Hey guys, today's topic is how to unlock the leader inside of you. Now, again, the topic is how to unlock the leader inside of you. I'm going to give you the answer right away. The answer is you. So, when you think of leadership, when you think of who you're going to be 5, 10 years from now, what do you think of? What do you envision? Bring that person outside of you today. That's my goal for you. That person that you want to be, that leader that you want to be. The way that you unlock that person is very simple. You bring that person outside of you today. Now, there's 3 things I want to let you know. 1, in order to unlock the leader inside of you, you have to understand your foundation. Understand your foundation. And then number 2, you have to know yourself. Know who you are inside and out. And third, you have to be yourself every single day. Now I'm going to jump right into this. 7 words is what assisted my understanding of life as an adolescent. Sit your ass down on that couch. That's what my stepfather said to myself and my 2 older siblings. We were forced to watch as he beat my mother. My mother then pleaded, let them go in the room, but then he repeated, sit your ass down on that couch. Now that was my life. That was what I remembered. That's all I remembered of my mom. That's one of 2 memories. The second memory I have of my mother is of her in a box. I remember being in this room with purple walls and we're all standing in a line. We're all approaching this box. And as we got closer and closer, every different person that looked into that box, they would hoot, they would holler, they would cry, they would sob, they would do something. But then I got there and I saw that inside of that box was actually my mother. Now, I didn't understand. I didn't know how to interpret it. So for me, as a 4-year-old, I just got down close and I said, get up. Mom, get up. I didn't see why that was so complicated or why that type of a question wouldn't be asked in that situation. Only later on did I realize that my mother had actually passed away. And so in my mind, the world was a little bit different. You see, because when I recall in my memories, I can recall those 7 words, and then I can recall my mom being dead. So for me, life was in reality about a man who beat my mother to death, the person that I loved dearly. And that's kind of that was my perception. And I didn't understand it. So for me, I wanted to protect my family at all costs once I realized in my mind that this man inflicted pain on my mother. Now, only later on did I realize that she actually died from neurofibromatosis and brain tumors in her head, and that was the cause of her death. But as a 4-year-old, where no one's really willing to explain to you really what's happening, no one's really taking the time to put into words how your mother actually passed away in a way that a 4-year-old would understand. So of course I went through life interpreting it in my own manner, and I took it out in the way that I thought was best. I was taught really early on how to fight because I watched my stepfather do it to my mother every day. And so for me, anytime I encountered somebody that looked at me the wrong way or said anything the wrong way, I was automatically fighting. I was an angry kid. That was my foundation. Suspended over 20 times, expelled 3 times, and thrown behind the back of a police car, all before I even got to high school. I was angry, ready to fight anybody. That was my reality. That was my foundation. But it wasn't who I wanted to be. As I got older and I started to understand what my actions, what I did, how it reflected on who people thought I was. And in my mind, I was a great person. In my mind, I was extraordinary. In my mind, I was going to do great things. I was going to change the world. In my mind. But see, there lies the problem. In my mind, I was all of these things. It wasn't what I was in the moment. So again, I encourage you, bring that person outside of you today. That person that's in your mind. That person that when you look at yourself, that reflection of who you are, who you're going to become in 5 or 10 years. What does that person look like? What are they wearing? How do they talk? How do they stand? See, I like to close my eyes and I start to envision, who is that person? And for me, that person is someone who is inspiring people. Someone who is changing lives. So today, I want to be that person. Today, I want to be that person that I see in 5 years. Because only if I take the actions today will I be able to do that in 5 years. In my mind will stay in my mind unless I let it out today. Bring that person outside of you today. Understanding your foundation is the first point that I wanted to make to you guys. Okay, the second one is you have to know who you are today. You have to understand, who am I? You see, I went through life unsure about what my next step was supposed to be. Because for me, it was being dictated by a bunch of other people. Everyone wanted to understand, why are you so angry? Why are you getting suspended? What is it? What's the root cause? And you know, it wasn't until I was a grown person that I realized why my mom actually died. It wasn't until I was already grown that I was able to understand why I was sent to go live with so many different people. I lived with my aunt, I lived with my grandmother, I lived with my grandfather, I lived with 2 different cousins. I went to 4 different high schools in 2 different states all before graduating. And I didn't understand why. Life was different through my eyes. But to the rest of the world, it makes sense. Because they have the information to put the pieces to the puzzle together. But I didn't have the pieces of the puzzle to put them together, so I had to do it myself. So who am I today? I'm the type of person that's willing to find out the solution to my problems. I understand what my foundation is. Early on, it was a lifestyle where I witnessed physical and verbal abuse every single day. It's a lifestyle where the only person I could look up to was actually an abusive man who was my stepfather. And even after my mom died, when we would go visit him 2 or 3 times a year, for 8 years, it turns out that he was actually raping my sister. Those are the types of things, those are the realities that I didn't quite understand. So who am I today? I'm a person that wanted to really fix those types of problems. When I was younger, I always said I want to be a police officer. Why? Because I want to put people like my stepfather behind bars. See, the life that I was given, I could only act based on how I was able to interpret it from my lens. It was different for me. And so I had to approach it differently. I had to understand it. And when the right people started to notice me in the right way, I was able to interpret life a little bit differently. I remember my cousin challenged me one day, older woman. She said, "Say the words, 'I love you.'" And I was concerned about that question. Why can't I say the words, "I love you"? After a while, I just sat there and I couldn't mutter the words to the point where I was just crying. I was upset. I was a teenager. This is kind of that point where the last hurrah, someone's got to break through to me, or I'm probably gonna go south. And it was at that moment in time, with tears flushing down my face, that I realized that I couldn't say the word, "I love you." And it was a breakthrough. It was a realization that I was angry. As much as I would laugh and smile when times were fine, I was still upset and I was still angry, still not understanding why I couldn't stay in one home, why I was constantly being bounced around, why I could never stay in one school. I didn't understand that it was the fact that we had to move locations because we were being evicted, because my mom was only 23 at the time when she adopted me. Mom being my aunt, excuse me. She couldn't pay the bills, so then we relocate, get a new place. Whatever the school is there, that's where I'm going. It was difficult, but I didn't understand that. So I had to adapt. I channeled that anger that I had, and I started to understand it. I started to alter it. I started to become the person I wanted to be. I knew what my issues were. I was challenged in math and I was challenged in grammar. I was supposed to go to the 5th grade. Instead, they put me back in the 4th grade, but they put me back in 3rd grade, math and grammar. Man, that took a hit on my pride. So that very year, the same time that I'm being challenged to say the words, I love you, my cousin's then helping me, assisting me, coaching me, saying, okay, you can do it. And I started to believe in myself. That same year, I finished the 3rd grade math and grammar book, 4th grade math and grammar book, to move on to the 5th grade math and grammar book, and kind of continued in that trajectory so much so that I was able to skip the 8th grade and go straight into high school. It was fortunate. It was fortunate. Now, of course, life hits. I find out that what was going on with my stepfather and my sister, and now there's a court case going on, and I'm sent to go live with my cousin. I start to feel that the responsibilities of what happened to my sister are my fault, and that I could have recognized it, I could have stopped it. I'm supposed to be the defender of the family. That I don't understand how that happened. So I started to understand everything that happened in my life. And I started to understand again that it's in my control. I can control what happens to my life. If I don't know something, I can study harder. I can work longer hours. I can put in the work so I can become the person that I want to be. Know who you are. And then be yourself every single day. For me, life hasn't changed very much. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a police officer so I could put bad people behind bars. But as I got older, first of all, I realized that I don't really want to be a police officer. I got fond of business. And so I went to Hampton University, got into their MBA program. I discovered that I was in love with athletics, so I was able to channel anger the way I moved into carrying a football, into motivating a team, into making it to championships. I was able to understand that the same passion that I put into football, into art, and into running track, and even to fighting when I was young and passionate about just being angry and fighting. All that different avenues were able to be molded into one direction, that direction being changing the world. I was given a mentor. That mentor let me know the path that it took to be successful in business. So much so that in high school, in college, I was able to start my own little business. I failed many times again, and many times again. And then in grad school, taking a business plan to a group of investors and getting turned down because it wasn't thought out thoroughly enough. And then going on and taking a $3,000 investment while I was in corporate America working at a Big Four accounting firm, taking a $3,000 investment and turning it into 6 figures in the first 6 months, and then taking that business plan over to that same group of investors and raising $250,000 in venture capital to start my business. I closed my eyes and I imagined who I wanted to be. I understood that I was put back for math and for grammar, but when I went to college, I got an A+ in calculus. That wasn't because someone started tutoring me. That wasn't because someone started to just acknowledge that maybe this person's a little slower, let me give him an A. No, I worked my butt off. I channeled the passion that I had in every avenue, and I put it in one focus. And that was becoming the person I wanted to be. That's it. It's that simple. Think about it, guys. Does the person you want to be excel academically? Does the person you want to be know how to motivate? Do they know how to lead? Do they know how to walk? Do they know how to talk? How do they interact with people? Whatever that person is, bring that person outside of you today. It's that simple. Do that. Take every step necessary to becoming that person, the person that you envision for yourself. Nobody else's vision but your own. Become the person that you want to be, and you'll unlock that leader that's inside of you. All right, guys. Thank you.